All right, Rabbi, good morning. Good morning. Let us begin by thanking all of our sponsors for this morning's shir. To thank our Talmud Torah sponsor for Tafshin Pei Hey, the Tilson Family of Ari Gertner, for dedicating all of the Shira and Drushos this year as a zechus for besuros, tovos for Am Yisroel. Our Daf Yomi sponsors for this morning, Milt Melanie Gertner, for dedicating the Shira in honor of the Bris of their grandson, Gad Moshe, born to Shira and Ari Gertner in Yerushalayim, Ir HaKodesh. Mazel tov to the Gertner Mishpacha. Beautiful and incredible. And I will say, of course, it's important to recognize that as we go ahead and as we begin our Shira this morning, the Levaya, the multiple Levayos for the Bibas family are underway in Eretz Yisrael. We hope that in the merit of our Talmud Torah that those precious neshamas should have an aliyah, that broken family should experience an nechama, and that Amir Hashem and Chadosh Baruch Hu should just bring besuros tovos, true besuros tovos for all of Am Yisroel. With that, let us begin. Today's daf is Ayin Aleph 71. We are picking up Amir Hashem on Ayin Aleph. We have a lot to do today, Baruch Hashem, and we are picking up 70b, 3 lines up from before the lines get wide. So remember again, we left off in the middle of the sugya of Bathsheba giving Musar to Shlomo. And she said as follows, Umab mas nidri. So remember again, I read this part quickly at the end yesterday. So Mar bar nidri, sorry. So just to Shlomo, you are the son of my neder. What does this mean? So Bathsheba said, Kol nashim shal beis avicha hayunodros. So remember again, Bathsheba, context again, Bathsheba is giving Shlomo Musar, that he's overindulging in the finer things in life. One of the advantages of being the prince, you've got a lot of access to luxury items, and he's overindulging. And she's essentially giving him different forms of Musar. So Musar number 1 is that people are going to hinge your delinquent behavior on me, because after all, your father's a tzaddik. So if your father's a tzaddik and you're misbehaving, it must be your mother. That's number 1. Number 2, she said, I went out of my way to make sure that you would be a healthy baby. And now number 3, she calls him Bar Nidri, the son of my neder. Both said, this is incredible. She says, Kol nashim shal beis avicha, all of David's wives, Hayunodros, who make the following neder. Yeheli ben Hagun l'malchus. Give me a son who is worthy of the monarchy. So this is incredible. I'll say, all of David HaMelech's wives, they wanted one thing. They wanted a son who would become the next king. That's what they wanted. Bathsheba said, I always wanted something different for you, David. What did I want? Va'anina darti va'amarti. Yeheli ben Zoriz umemula batorah. Wow. What did Bathsheba want for her son? She said, give me a son who is Zoriz. That's the more. Both say Zoriz, alacritus, zrizos. Give me a son who, when he does something, he does it with a sense of purpose, does it with a sense of timeliness, does it with a sense of alacrity. That whatever he does in life, he takes it seriously and does it with incredible zrizos. Umamula batorah. Give me a son, ultimately, who is filled with Torah. Vahagun lenevios. And ultimately worthy of prophecy. Now, if you notice, by the way, she doesn't say, give me a son who's a prophet. Right? She says, just give me a son who's worthy of prophecy. I will say there is so much to be learned from this Gemara. What do we want for our children? So all too often in life, we put the wrong emphasis on what we want for our kids. And we often focus on, what we want our kids to do when they grow up. I want to make sure that my daughter is able to be a doctor, a lawyer, a rabbi. No one wants a rabbi. An accountant, all different. And there's such a hyper focus on what my kid is going to do for Parnasa, which of course Parnasa is incredibly important, as we all know. But at the end of the day, it's interesting to see what Bathsheba wanted for her son and the qualities that she wanted for her son. Give me a son who takes life seriously. That's zrizos. So I will say, you can tell a lot about a person by how they approach the different initiatives in life. There are people who are, zrizos is a midah, and zrizos is a midah of seriousness. And when you have the midah of zrizos, that's why again the Ramchal puts it so early on in Mesilas Yesharim. When you have the midah of zrizos, it means that you have a seriousness and a koved rosh approach to life. And when people who are zoriz are successful in whatever it is that they do. Mamula b'Torah. Don't be, what does it mean to be mamula b'Torah? To be filled with Torah. In other words, there are different ways you can approach Torah. A person can take a lackadaisical approach to Torah, a lackadaisical approach to learning, a lackadaisical approach to observance, or a person could be mamula. Mamula means I'm mole, I'm fully committed. Hagun l'nevius is all-encompassing. What are the qualities that are necessary in order to become a navi? I don't know. But I would imagine that you have to have ala milas to be a navi. That's what a mother wanted for her child. Zrizus, Mamula B'Torah, Hagun L'Nevius. Incredible. Elam Malachim, Lemuel, Al Malachim, Shasu Yain. So Hashem says to Shlomo, Al Malachim Amralo, Malacha Itzim Malachim Shosei Mishtakrim, V'omrim Lama Lanu Kel. So Bathsheba said to Shlomo, this is incredible, you've got the wrong friends. You've got the wrong friends. Why are you hanging out with those kings who become intoxicated? There's like a king chevra, like a monarch chevra. Why are you hanging out with the monarch chevra? Because they drink too much wine. And after drinking so much wine, what do they say? What do we need God for? We're the king. We're all powerful. Or the rose the meshechar. And those rulers, they abuse the intoxicating beverage too much. Misha kol raze olam gluyim lo yishte yain v'yishtaker. When you have access to the one before whom all secrets are revealed, should you become inebriated with wine? In other words, we'll say, remember, we keep seeing the two sides of wine, right? And on one hand, the ability of wine to, first of all, take sometimes the edge off life and allow me to lean into my newfound circumstances. Also to unlock, to bring down the walls that are sometimes walling me off from my inner Kedusha. On the other hand, it's easily abused and easily misused as well. So, Halacha l'maisa, Bathsheba says to Shlomo, what are you doing? Why waste your time with wine when you have access to the knower of all secrets, to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? So no matter how powerful a ruler is subservient to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So again, if you have to go ahead and anyway show up in front of the ruler of the universe, why waste your time with wine? How do we know that Shlomo did tshuva, so to speak? In other words, Shlomo was Mekabel, his mother's musar. Ki ba'ar anochi mi'ish v'lo binas adam li. So he says literally again, I'm less than an ish and I don't even have wisdom. This is incredible. Ki ba'ar anochi mi'ish, who's the ish he's referring to? Minoach. Dichsiv vayachal Noach ish ha'adama. Shlomo was again, the Gemara faulted Noach for going ahead, and the first thing that he did is he planted vines. So Shlomo recognized, you know what? I've made myself even more mundane than Noach. For the binas adam li, and there's not even the proper wisdom of man in me. Who's that? Ze Adam Arishon. That refers to Adam Arishon, who again had one mitzvah, wasn't able to comply. Shama HaMelech laments that he's not even on that level. Incredible. I will say, by the way, another tremendous Musar Haskell. What is the hallmark of great people? One of the hallmarks of great people, the ability to take Musar. No one likes Musar. No one likes it. No one likes rebuke. No one likes critique. No one likes constructive criticism. No one even likes even positive feedback. I've come to find positive feedback is often sometimes laced with some other. We don't like it. It's natural. It's normal. Great people are able to hear, especially when that positive feedback or that negative feedback or that critique is coming from someone who loves them as much as it stings. They're able to hear it, they're able to inculcate it, and they're able to pivot with it. And it's Gadlus, Shlomo HaMelech. Shlomo HaMelech, who was known as the wisest of men, gets a patch from his mother. Gets a real patch from his mother. And essentially, what does he say? He says, thank you. He says, thank you. That's Gadlus. That's Gadlus. Okay, let's go weiter. Says the Gemara. Achal b'chaburas mitzvah. I'm Rabbi Avo. So again, back to Ben Soromar. I'm Rabbi Avo. Enu chayv achi ochal b'chabura shekula srikin. So this is very interesting. Ben Soromar, so what we've established in yesterday's daf, right, is again, what he has to steal, right, he's stealing money. What he has to buy with that money, and how much of it he has to consume. Now the Gemara is pivoting a little bit. The Gemara is talking about who does he have to consume it with? Who does he have to consume it with? So Rabbi Avo says he's only chayiv if he eats it with a group of srikin. Now, what are srikin? If you look at Rashi says Skula Srikin, it's like 3 lines up from where we are, crossing Rashi. Reikin, Shiagilu Bekach. So what says it's fascinating. What turns a person or turns a kid into a Ben Sora or Mora is not just that he's stealing money, that he's creating an addiction for overindulgence for wine and meat. It's also the chevra that he hangs out with. Chevra means everything. So Rabbi Avo says he's only chayiv if he eats it with a group of srikin. Now it's interesting. Rashi defines srikin over here as reikin. Well, what does reikin mean? Empty people. Empty people. Shiagilu b'kach, who will habituate him to these type of habits. Aval mish bechabura adam hagun b'chi hay gavno lo mamshich. So Shabbos said, this is incredible. Rabbi Yoel says, when is Ben Sora Mora chayiv? only when he's eating the meat and the wine with a group of srikin. Now, I just want to point out over here, it's interesting, if you notice how Rashi defines srikin, he doesn't say like avaryonim, people who go ahead and commit averos. How does he define a bad chevra? Reikim. Empty people. Empty people. An empty person may or may not be committing an avera. What does it mean when you're empty? There's nothing in you. There's no drive. There's no drive. There's no she'ifa. There's no pull to something greater. There's no, as we saw before, there's no zrizos. There's no mamula l'Torah. There's no hagun l'nevias. There's nothing pulling a person towards something greater. Well, if I have nothing pulling me towards something greater, I'm empty. I'm empty. And what Rashi's saying is, the Gemara is saying is, we'll say, you know what? A chevra of empty people is much more dangerous than a chevra of sinning people. Well, first of all, because every chevra is a chevra of sinning people, because all of us commit averas. I will say, but at least, when a person is committing an avera, what does it say about a person? They have a desire for something. Desire for something. Okay, maybe the wrong things, but desire for something. Reikim, there's a desire for nothing. You have a desire for nothing? Just like emptiness? That's a dangerous chabura. So the concern over here is, if he's surrounding himself with these kind of people, that's when the ben sorah umora addictions are really facilitated. However, the Gemara but we learned the Mishnah said that if the kid is eating his meat and drinking his wine in a chaburas mitzvah. Now again, we'll discuss what that means, but pashtos, what that means is he's eating it. Interestingly enough, he's stealing the money, he's purchasing the meat and the wine, but he's consuming it in some type of mitzvah context, that he does not become a ben sorar umora. So Gemara says, Taimo, the mitzvah. Now the reason is because the act of consumption is occurring in the context of a mitzvah. Halav mitzvah, but if it wasn't a mitzvah, afagav delav kula srikin, even if not everyone in the chevra is one of the srikin. Hakamash malon, afagav the kula srikin, kevin to mitzvah ka'asik lo mimshach. So we'll say, so essentially what the Gemara is saying is like this, that if the ben sorar umora is eating the meat and wine in the sudas mitzvah, even if the entire chevra for the Sudas Mitzvah are srikin, he doesn't become a ben sorah umora. Doesn't become a ben sorah umora. Or if it's not a mitzvah, if the entire group is srikin, he does become a ben sorah umora. Or halacha l'maisa again, if the entire group minus one person are srikin, in other words, if there's one good guy in that chevra, he also doesn't become a ben sorah umora. He only becomes a ben sorah umora if it's a non-mitzvah meal and all srikin. Now let's say two profound lessons over here. Number one, well, three profound lessons. Number one, the power of chevra. The power of chevra. Surrounding yourself by the right people. We go through life and we think that the truth is it doesn't really matter who I surround myself with, who I'm friends with, who I share my Shabbos meals with, whatever. I can kind of insulate myself against that. It's not true. It's not true. Who you hang out with and who you keep company with makes you who you are. That is the way that it works. So you have a chabur of kula srikin, terrible things are going to occur. On the other hand, interestingly enough, what you see over here is, if it's a chabur of all srikin, but there's one good guy, then what? That's not a chabura srikin. What do you see from there? The power of the individual to impact a chavra. That one person in a chabura of srikin can have a tremendous and overwhelming impact. Never underestimate your ability to have an impact on the people around you. Number three, even if you have a whole chabur of srikin, but you're eating a sudas mitzvah, it's not a problem. It's not going to become ben sorah umora. Why? Because if you put yourself in the right circumstances, even if you don't necessarily have the best chavra, putting yourself in the right circumstances has a hashba on you as well. So putting yourself in the right circumstances has a hashba on you as a proper, right, that's the sudas mitzvah. Putting yourself in the right chevra has the right hashba on you, but never underestimate the ability to have an impact, even if you find yourself surrounded by the wrong type of influences. Incredible, incredible Gemara. What you begin to see for ben sorah umora, interestingly enough, is all of these things fuel his addiction, right? In other words, that it's the theft of the money, the overindulgence, or the development of an appetite for expensive things like the Italian wine, the meat, right? And then also embedding himself with the wrong groups of people. All of these things are necessary in order to make him a ben sorah umora. Good. Aval be'ibra chodesh. So we'll say, so remember, the example that the Mishnah gave for a Sudas Mitzvah was the Suda that they made for Ibra Chodesh. Ibra Chodesh, as we said before, is the intercalation of the new month. In other words, adding on an extra day to the month, making it a month of 30 days instead of 29 days. So they would have made a Suda for that. So Gemara said, 1 second. Memra, the Basar V'yai Masku, is that saying that they had meat and wine for that Suda? Vatayim, we learned, Ein Olin Lo Ela B'pas V'dag and the Kitnis Bilvad, but that meal was actually a very simple meal. What did they have at the meal, the intercalation of the month? They had bread, right? They had bread, wheat, and kitnis, and legumes. I was supposed to say, that was a very light meal. Think about this, by the way. They had to decide about how to intercalate the month. You don't want that turning into a fabrengen, right? In other words, that needs to be, there's a lot of decisions that have to be made over there. So you need food, right? Because it might take a long time. But you want to keep a very simple menu over here. So the Gemara says, "Hakam Hashman da'afagav dein onlo ela pas v'kisnes v'yu asik bas v'yayin b'achol kevim to b'mitzvah ka'asik lo mamshich." Oh, so that's the chiddush. You're right. Normally, the people who would go in for this Suda, they were only eating. It's an interesting fact. What did they eat by the Suda for Iber HaChodesh? Bread, wheat, and legumes. So let's say they were having that meal. And let's say Ben Sora Mora shows up for that meal. Or he's not a Ben Sora Mora yet. He's a candidate. Right? Ben Sora Mora candidate shows up for that meal with stolen meat and stolen wine and sits down and eats with them. That can't transform him into a Ben Sora Umora. Why? Because he's eating it in the context of a Sudas mitzvah. So eating even stolen items in the context of a Sudas mitzvah will not make you into a Ben Sora Umora. Incredible. Tanra Banan, Ein Olim Bibarach. So I was saying, sit down just a word about that Suda. Ein Olim Bibarach Chodesh Pachos Me'asara B'nei Adam. So you need at least a minyan, right? That you need at least a minyan for that Suda for Ibarach Chodesh. Vein Olim Lo Elo Bepas Dagam V'Kitnis. Furthermore, again, you're only going to go up there with bread. Actually, it's not really bread and wheat. It's pas dagan. It is bread made from wheat and kitnis and legumes. Vein onla elo or iburo, and you only go up on the night of the 31st, right? The night after the 30th. Vein olin la bayom elo balayla. They only go for the suda at night and not by day. Really? Vatanya, we learned ein olin la balayla elo bayom. But the Bris says they go up for the Suda by day and not by night. Kedar Rabbi Chia bar Abba, so Libnei Achrifu va'olo Achrifu upoku Kehechi delishmu b'chu inshi. Go up early to the meal. In other words, go up to the meal while it's still daytime. Come down before sunrise when people are starting to get up, so that it'll make a rash. People will know what it is that you're doing, and that way, again, the extension of the month will be properly publicized. Incredible. Achal ma'is shnei b'sham. So again, just to keep our train of thought over here. So what we're now beginning to see is that there are certain exceptions or certain types of consumption that prevent a person from becoming a ben sora or umora. So essentially, if the act of eating itself takes place in the context of a mitzvah, such an act of consumption cannot make the boy into a ben sora or umora. In the same way that eating with certain positive chavra also can't make the boy into a ben sora or umora. Fascinating. So the Gemara goes weiter. Kevan dechi orchehu ha'ka'achel lo mamshich. So remember again, similarly, if he steals money, right, let's say, he steals money, Meister Sheni money, goes in and purchases meat and wine and eats in Yerushalayim, so again, he does become a Ben Sora Mora. Why not? Because that's a normative act, right? He's performing something normative. Granted, he stole the money, but the act of consumption itself is a normative act of consumption. What makes him into a Ben Sora or Mora is the development of non-normative appetites as developed through non-normative acts of consumption. But if he's doing something quote-unquote normal, you can't become a Ben Sora or Mora like that. Fascinating. Let's go back there. Achal nevelas trepos shkatzim v'ramosim. Amrava. Achal basar oaf. Inonasa Ben Sora or Mora. This is great. Chicken can't make you into Ben Sora or Mora. It's got to be flesh. It's got to be meat, right? So he goes there and he steals money, and he buys schnitzel, right? That's not going to make him into a Ben Sora or Mora. But we learned in the Mishnah. But 1 second, that's not true. The Mishnah indicates to us if he stole money and bought non-kosher food, we'll see why that is, he doesn't become Ben Sora or Mora. The inference from that is that as long as he's buying kosher food, even if it's chicken, right, even if it's fowl, that Allah Maisa, he should become Ben Sora or Mora. Tush Gemara says, no, Kitran Mas Nisin Lahashtem. So this is fascinating about say. Remember, how much meat does little Chazara? How much meat does Ben Sora or Mora have to eat in order to go and become Ben Sora or Mora? Right? Machlokes. First opinion in Mishnah, right? Tartimar. Tartimar. So let's say, for example, he eats a little bit less than a tartimar. Tartimar, I don't know, minus kizayis. So the halacha is, if he's mashlim the kizayis with fowl, with oaf, with chicken, that can make a ben sorah mora. That's the chiddush over here. So you can't eat a tartimar. Ultimately, again, can't eat a tartimar of fowl. But if you eat almost a tartimar of meat, and you go ahead and you're mashlim that, you complete that shear with a little bit of fowl, ultimately that can make you into a ben sorah mora. All right, incredible. So we'll say, listen to this. And how the Mishnah said, if he eats something that's a dvar mitzvah or a dvar avera, he doesn't become a ben sorah mora. So what is that? So dvar mitzvah, what does it mean dvar mitzvah? Tanchume avelim. Ultimately, again, he participates in the meal for consolation of mourners. Consolation of mourners. Now look at Rashi for just a moment. Rashi says over here, 3 lines from the bottom, Tanchumi Avelim, Dafagav Tzkant Rabbana Ba'amahu, Di'i Mereisha Hava Mina Chaburas Mitzvah, Hainu Kohanim. Let's listen to this. Let's say the kid, can't call him Ben Sorah Mora because he's not Ben Sorah Mora yet. The kid joins a Nichum Avelim meal, right? The halach is that when Avelim come back from the cemetery, they have what's called the Sudas Havra, a meal of consolation. So let's say again, the kid sits down and joins them for that. That's a Sudas Mitzvah. So remember again, what we're seeing over here is the development of a theme. A Ben Sorah Mora only goes ahead and becomes a Ben Sorah Mora if, number one, he's stealing money. Number two, he's purchasing meat and wine of very high quality. And then number three, it has to be consumed in a context which leads to the development of negative addictions. But what we see over and over is if the consumption itself takes place in a positive context, then we are not concerned about the fueling of addictions. So again, obviously, a positive context would be Suda Shabbos, right? He does it in a Shabbos meal. He's like, the chiddush over here is that, let's say something even as simple as a Sudas Havra, the meal for Avelim. That's also enough of a mitzvah that we're not concerned about the fueling of a negative addiction. Incredible. So the Gemara goes weiter. The Gemara says, Dvar Avera, Tainis Tzibor. What does it mean, Dvar Avera? So let's say he steals money, purchases meat and wine, and eats it during a fast day. He eats it on Tainis Esther. So the Gemara says, so that doesn't make him a ben sorah mora. So why not? That's so strange, right? Why wouldn't that make him into a ben sorah mora? For time of my Amakra, and ener shomea bekolenu v'lo bekolo shamakom. This is fascinating. In order to become ben sorah mora, it has to be that the child is defying his parents' instructions. Ener shomea bekolenu. But if his act of consumption is in defiance of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that does not make him into a ben sorah mora. We'll say, isn't that fascinating? Now, that's just a technicality. Right? So ben sorah mora is someone who defies his parents. But if his act of consumption is an act of divine defiance, then he doesn't become ben sorah mora. Again, he's getting off on a technicality. Incredible. I will say, by the way, and that's why all of these different things, that's why if he steals money and buys chazer, you would think like, steals money and buys chazer, of course he's ben sorah mora. He's not. It's fascinating. He's not. If he goes to the kosher butcher and buys the finest cut of meat, he becomes ben sorah mora. Goes to the supermarket, buys a piece of chazer, he's not a ben sorah mora. Why? That's the pshat, because what makes someone a ben sorah mora is his act of defiance is an act of defiance against his parents. But it's not an act of defiance against God. I mean, the whole thing is an act of defiance against God, but because he's stealing. But the consumption itself, technically, is halachically permitted. But if his act of consumption itself is halachically prohibited, then halacha l'maisa, he's not a ben sorah mora. Good, let's go weiter. Achol kol ma'achol v'lo achol basar, shasa kol mashka v'lo shasa yayin. Achol kol ma'achol v'lo achol basar. So for example, so therefore, same idea. If the ben sorah mora ate anything, but didn't eat didn't eat meat, he does become ben sorah mora. In order to become ben sorah mora, you have to eat meat. In order to become ben sorah mora, he has to drink wine. So the Gemara says, lo achol basar. What is it if he didn't eat meat? Lasuye devela keilis. So we'll say, even if he ate a cake of pressed figs. Now, a cake of pressed figs from Keilis, right, from Keilis, was a very high quality meichel, a very high quality food. And in certain respects, maybe even had that quality almost of like meat. Kamashmalan, even if you eat the dvela ki'ilis, halacha l'maisa, you still don't become ben sora mora. V'shasa dvash v'chalav. V'loshasa and asuya dvash v'chalav. Saying it interestingly enough, apparently the drinking of wine, of milk and honey could have an intoxicating effect on a person as well. So even if he drank those items which have an intoxicating effect, so even though the effect is the same, if he doesn't drink wine, he doesn't become ben sora mora. Desanya achol dvela kilas shas devash v'chalav v'nichnas lamikdash chayiv tabavayin out. Because also interestingly enough, there's a good halacha for kohanim. If a kohen goes ahead and eats a dvela kilas, his cake of pressed Tilson kilos, or he drinks honey or milk and goes into the Beis Hamikdash and does the avoda, he's chayiv. Now, why is he chayiv? He's chayiv for doing the avoda under the influence. Right? That's halacha. You're not allowed to do the avoda while intoxicated, and if he goes into the Beis Hamikdash after having consumed these items, there's a level of inebriation, and he's going to be chayiv for that. Absolutely incredible. Must say Ayin Aleph from Dalf 71a. Ilonasa ben Sora Mor Achi Yochabas V'Yishti Yayin Tan Rabbanon. Achol kol ma'achol v'lo achol basar. Ben Sora Mora, the kid eats any item but doesn't eat meat. Shasa kol machka v'lo shasa yain, or he drinks any drink but he did not drink wine. Inonasa ben Sora Mora achi yocha basar v'yishte yain. You only become ben Sora Mora when you go ahead and you eat meat and you drink wine. Shene Amar zolel v'sovei, because the pasuk calls him again a glutton and a guzzler. And even though again, I don't really know explicitly in the Torah what zolel and sove means. I don't know what it's referring to. There is still a scriptural allusion. We just saw this in the Mishnah. Do not be amongst the guzzlers of wine and bezolele basar lamo, or gluttonous consumers of meat. Va'omer ki sove v'zola yoresh ukraim talbish numa. So we'll say, so again, interestingly enough, the Torah uses the lashon of zolel for sove, and then we see from this other pasuk in Mishlei that again, sove refers to wine and zolel refers to meat. So we put that all together and we understand that for the Ben Sora Umora, his issue is overconsumption of meat and wine. Incredible. I will say this is a fascinating Gemara. Am Rabbi Zera, Kala Yashem bebeis hamedrash. Whoever sleeps in the Beis Medrash, Torasa naasa lo kiraim. His Torah becomes patchy. His Torah becomes patchy, right? Like patches of clothing. Shnei amar ukiraim talbish numa. The one who slumbers will wear patches. Now, I will say the truth is there's no great kunst to this Gemara. It's actually very straightforward. I will say one of the most important things, right? When it comes to learning, there's two studim, there's two sides. On one hand, there's an experiential piece of learning. And that experiential piece of learning really happens just by showing up. Like Rabbi Nachman says, even if a person doesn't understand what it is that they're learning, your mind maybe doesn't understand, but your heart absolutely does. The neshama understands everything. And see, even I walk out, someone says, "No, what did you learn?" Like, I have no idea, right? But which some days of Daf Yomi are like that, right? But I know that I was there for 45 minutes, 50 minutes, an hour, whatever it is. The neshama is fundamentally changed as a result of that. That's one level of Torah. But of course, we don't want to suffice ourselves with that. I really want to have a comprehension. I really want to have an understanding. I really want to be bought in. I will say, what's the formula for being bought in? What's the formula? It's a pretty simple one. Don't be distracted. Don't be distracted. Pay attention. Pay attention. Don't allow yourself to get distracted. Yashin doesn't literally have to mean that I'm asleep. Yashin just means that sometimes I'm on the daf, sometimes I'm on my phone, sometimes I'm over here, sometimes I'm over there. What's the result of that? Again, now by the way, do you get a shkayach for showing up? Of course. But then don't be surprised when the Torah I walk out with is patchy. Because again, here I was email, here I was WhatsApp, here I was talking, here I was this, and again, the reality is, the Torah is broken up. It's not cohesive because I wasn't fully vested. By the way, you begin to see a theme, right? You begin to see a theme. What did Bathsheba want for Shlomo? What did she want? She wanted zrizos. So we'll say, so what does zrizos mean? Zrizos means when I'm doing something, I'm in. Let's say ever in a meeting with someone and they're checking their email in the middle of the meeting? Ever happened to anyone? Right? My klal gadol is, I've started this now, right? If you're checking email in the meeting with me, I have better things to do. better things to do. Same thing on a Zoom meeting, right? It's okay. It's okay. If you're too busy, go. Do what you have to do. But it's a lack of derech. In other words, what are we doing? What are we doing? We're never focused on what it is that we're doing. We're always somewhere else. So when I'm in the office, I'm trying to chop a few minutes to learn. Chaver, don't learn in your office. Don't learn in your office. You should be doing one thing in your office. And that is working. Work. You're in your office. I guess if you're self-employed, you can do whatever you want, right? But if you work for someone, they're not paying you to catch a couple of minutes of learning here and there. Do your work and be besuros and be committed and be involved. And when you're in Shir, learn your Torah and don't be at work. Don't be at work. Just commit yourself to whatever it is that's there. Otherwise, you're going to sleep through your entire Torah life. And after 120, when you come to the Beis Din Shalom, the Rebbeinu Shalom says, Shefala, what did you learn? What did you learn? Tell me, what did you learn? And you're going to say, I'll tell you, I remember there was that day and we did this sugya. But I'll tell you, I got through 10 emails that day, right? And I texted 10 of my chaverim during Shir that day, right? And I checked the news 14 times that day. I remember a piece of this. Why? If we're going to do it, then just do it. And commit yourself to shutting off the distractions. Commit yourself. And this is during learning. This is during davening. Otherwise, I'm here, but I'm sleeping. I'm sleeping through davening because I'm elsewhere. I'm sleeping through learning because I'm elsewhere. We have literally, the greatest treasure in the world at our fingertips. Every single day. And Baruch Hashem, we live in a dar. We live in a time where it is so ridiculously easy. There is only one thing we have to do. Pay attention. Don't fall asleep. Don't go ahead and get involved in multiple things. Just don't sleep figuratively in the base medrash. And if we could just do that, bring our zechus to our learning, bring our zechus to our davening. And Chaver, we're all young people. There is no telling what we could accomplish in our remaining years in this world. Let's go back to Mishnah. Ganav, Mishal Aviv, Va'ochel besuros Aviv. Now, boss, it's very interesting. So, by the way, I just want to point out, I think I said this when we started the Sugya Ben Sora Mora, which is, I'll say, what's the one takeaway from all of this? Clearly, the system is rigged so that this doesn't happen, right? And again, and that's okay. It's good to say that. It's the same thing with the death penalty, right? The system is set up not to execute someone. That's how it's set up. So Ben Sora also, all the details. So watch this. He says, Ganav Mishal Aviv V'achal besuros Aviv. So listen to this. Kid, we'll just call him kid. Well, he's an adult. Remember again, we'll say. Also, other piece of information. How old is Ben Sora Mora? How old is he? Right? So remember again, he is a gadol. What was the lashon of the Gemara? Samuch liish. In other words, he just recently entered into adult kite. We're going to see that concept again. Shortly, Meretz Hashem. So Ganav Mishal Aviv. So watch this. He stole his father's money. Va'ochel besuros Aviv. But he ate the stolen food in his father's reshus. Okay, or or he went ahead and he stole other people's money and ate it in their reshus. Okay, or or he stole other people's money and he ate it in the reshus of his father. We'll say first white line ayin aleph amud aleph. Enonase ben Sora Mora. We'll say in all these cases this becomes ben Sora Mora ad sheyigno mishal aviv v'yochal b'reshus acherim, until he steals his father's money and he goes ahead and he eats it in someone else's reshus. I will say, let me just tell you this outside for just a second. Remember, Ben Sora Umara is all about what? Formation of addictive behaviors. So the idea over here is as follows. If he's eating this, right, obviously, what in order to happen for Ben Sora, what has to happen? Whose money does he have to be stealing? Whose money? Has to be his father's money that he's stealing, right? It has to be that. But Lamaisa, interestingly enough, if he's consuming it in his father's reshus, the assumption is, what is the father going to do? What is the father going to do? Father's going to say, what are you doing? If a father sees his son engaging in gluttonous behavior, a father is going to say something. He's going to shut that down. He's going to shut that down. So therefore, we'll say, which is just a tremendous yisod in chinuch as well. Too often, we see our children engaging in negative character traits. But one of the greatest misconceptions is if we discipline people are so today, parents are so afraid to discipline their children because they think like if I discipline my kid, he's going to go off the derech. if you discipline your kid, he actually has a better chance of staying on the derech. If you don't discipline, and it's a free-for-all, and there's no rules, and there's no consequences, and you think that's love, that's not love. That's parental delinquency. That is parental abdication. That is a betrayal of the sacred responsibility that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving you. Obviously, you don't have to come down like a ton of bricks on every single thing. But boundaries are the ikar of parenthood. And sometimes parents think, I'll just let my kids, go do what they do. They'll come back around. That is a real roll of the dice. Sometimes it works. Most of the time, it doesn't. So again, what's fascinating over here is even this kid knows, I can't, shut myself with meat and wine in front of my father, because my father's going to shut that down. He's going to totally shut that down. So therefore, the only case of Ben Sora Mora, interestingly enough, is when the kid is stealing the money of his father, but consuming the meat and wine somewhere else. That's the combination. Because again, the assumption is he can steal his father's money because he has access to that. So therefore, there's access to money, plus the consumption is taking place somewhere else. That's the lethal combination that creates Ben Sora or Mora. Again, we'll see that more in the Gemara. Good. And last Ben Sora Mora, second wide line. Yochal Mishal Aviv, v'yochal b'rishus achirim. You don't become Ben Sora Mora until you're stealing your father's money and consuming it elsewhere. Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Yignov Mishal Aviv Mishal Imo. This is Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda says it's not enough just to steal your father's money; it has to be your father's and your mother's money. Both of them together. We'll see exactly what that means. Says the Gemara. So again, if he steals money from his father and eats in his father's rishus, even though, as we just said before, even though he has access to money, he's going to be afraid to develop this type of habit in front of his father. Why? Because if his father sees him being gluttonous, his father is going to shut this down. If he's stealing other people's money, but going ahead and eating it in other people's rishos, that's also not habit forming. Why? Even though he has no concern about eating it in someone else's rishos, lo shchiach other people's money. So the whole chapa ben Sora Mora is he's stealing his parents' money because he has access to his parents' money. That's where we're worried about habit developing behaviors. And all the more so if he's stealing money from other people, but eating it in his father's domain, the money is not accessible to him, and he's going to be scared of his father. So we'll say, the only formula that makes a kid into a Ben Sora or Mora, so again, we'll say, you're keeping a running list of all of the qualifications, is he has to be stealing his father's money, and the consumption has to be taking place outside of his father's home. That's I was going to say winning combination, but it's not a winning combination. No, that is the negative combination that ultimately creates. Again, he's stealing his father's money. We're worried about habit forming. Why? Because he has access to his father's money, and he's consuming it somewhere else, and therefore someone else is not going to give him musar about his gluttonous behaviors. That's why we are concerned about habit forming behaviors. Incredible. Rabbi Yosef Yehuda says he's only chayiv if he steals from his father and his mother. So the Gemara says, Imo minala. So first of all, again, what do you mean he's stealing from his mother? Where does his mother have property from? Masha kansa isha kanabayla. I was about to say again, what do you mean he's stealing from his mother? Whatever technically belongs to his mother already belongs to his father. So what's the shayla? So the Gemara says, like I said, how you tell that over, you'll decide. Whereas, no, what it means is, interestingly enough, his parents, the kid's parents prepared a beautiful dinner for themselves. They bought nice steaks and beautiful, beautiful wine. And what does the kid do? That's a suda that is ready for his parents. And the kid comes along and steals that from his parents. So he's effectively stealing from both of his parents. One second, that doesn't make you Ben Sora Mora. But that's not how it works. In other words, remember, you don't become Ben Sora Mora if you steal food. You only become Ben Sora Mora if what? If you steal money and then purchase expensive wine at a discount and expensive meat at a discount. So the Gemara says, you're right. Rather, again, what happened? The father had set aside money to take his wife out for dinner. They were going to go out for dinner for an expensive Fleishik Suda, made up of meat and wine. And what did this kid do? The kid stole the money that was set aside for both of his parents. By same possibility is the akni le'achar va'amar la'amanashi le'balech rishus bahen. Or again, the mother could have money. How could she have money? Someone gave her a gift and gave her a gift on the condition that her husband has no rights in that gift. Okay, let's say bottom line, you should just know the Rambam does not accept Rabbi Yossi's idea. The Rambam does not accept it. The money does not have to belong to the father and the mother. It just has to belong to a parent, whichever parent it is. Mishnah, Haya Aviv Rotza V'Iman Rotza. So we'll say this is incredible. Let's say the father. The father wanted to bring him to Beis Din, but the mother did not. Or Avivin Arotza V'Imon Rotza, the father didn't want to, the mother wanted to. Eino Nasa Ben Sora Mora Ad Sheyirtzu Shnehem. Ad Sheyushneim Rotza, sorry. A kid only becomes Ben Sora Mora when both parents are committed to bringing him to Beis Din for the Ben Sora Umora process. Rabbi Yehuda says, Im lo haise imo ru'uya la'aviv eino nasa ben sora mora. Rabbi Yehuda says, if their marriage was an illegal one, that's what it sounds like. If husband and wife have an illegal marriage, their son can't become a ben sora umora. All right, so what does this mean? What does that mean exactly? What does that mean that halacha l'maisa, the wife is not fit for her husband? So the Gemara says, "Ilay mechayve krisos v'chayve misos beis din, sof sof avu aninu." Sof sof avu aninu v'ime ninu. The truth is, who cares if their marriage is legal or not, right? What does it matter? At the end of the day, this is the kid's father, this is the kid's mother. Why does the marriage have to be legal? To which the Gemara says, Ella b'shavet la'aviv ka'amar. So we'll say this is incredible. Rather know what the Gemara means is like this. The mother has to be similar to the father. What does this mean? Ta'ina me'achabrais, that supports Rabbi Yehuda Omer, em lo haise imo shavet la'aviv b'kol b'mare u'b'koma eino nasa ben sora mora. Rabbi say this is wild. The parents actually have to resemble each other. If mother and father don't resemble each other in terms of the sound of their voice, the way they look, and their height, the kid can't become a ben sorer umora. Why not? My time with the Amar Kra, eineno shomea bikolenu. Fascinating, right? That the pasuk says, parents say to Beis Din, this kid doesn't listen to our voice, which indicates to us, midakol ba'inan shavin, the parents have to speak with the same voice. Mara v'koma nami ba'inan shavin. So too, again, the parents have to resemble themselves. Obviously, they don't have to look exactly, but they have to have some level of resemblance, and also resemblance that supposed to say, what a tremendous musar skill. What is it? What is the Gemara teaching us about parenting? Right? Parents have to be shava. They have to be on the same page about the chinuch of their kids. When children receive contradictory messages from parents, it's a disaster for their chinuch. So it has to be shomea bekolenu. Parents have to speak with them. Now but one second, what if parents have differences of opinion about the chinuch of their kids? Okay, that happens all the time. But that's the job of parents then to reconcile that and to figure out a unified approach independent of their children. But when they present to the kids, when they talk to the kids, when they're madrich the kids, when they're mechanech the kids, that has to be done with one voice. Because again, if you're giving a kid two different types of chinuch, if the mother's saying one thing and the father's saying one thing, don't be surprised when the kid goes down the wrong derech because he's not getting a unified, cohesive message. So interestingly enough, if the parents are giving two forms of chinuch, the kid can't become ben sora mora. Why? Because he can't fault the kid for making poor decisions when the child is receiving a non-unified chinuch. If the child is receiving a unified chinuch and still making terrible decisions, okay, that's when Ben Sora Umora kicks in. Rabbi say, but what a profound yisur by chinuch. Mother and father have to be shava, have to figure out a way to get on the same page about the vision of the family they want to raise and the type of children they want to inspire. Incredible. So the Gemara goes weiter. Kiman azal hadesanya. From where? According to who? According to is the following opinion. Ben Sora Umora. So we'll say, okay, so this is. I'm just going to tell you something. It's not my fault. It's not my fault that we cannot make it. This should be broken up like in 10 blot. And you can't put all of this on one page. It's literally Lifnei Iver. It's Lifnei Iver. So the Gemara says as follows. I'm not rushing. I just want to put you on full now. So if people from other shiurim taunt you about the slow pace of our shiur, just remind them, in the last 2 cycles, we never finished later than any other shiur, right? So Baruch Hashem, at the end of 7.5 years, we'll be exactly where we have to be. We might not be there on a daily basis, but we'll get there. I want to listen to this Gemara. Kiman Ozla Hadisanya. So who's the page reflecting on the following idea? Ben Sora Umora Lo Haya V'Lo Asid Lios. First you're like, what? What were we just doing this the whole time? So who's the page reflecting on the following idea? Ben Sora Umora never happened. Lo Haya, it never happened, and it never will happen. So I'll say, by the way, actually when you see this, after all we've seen, it makes a lot of sense. To get all of these details lined up, no, what would the probability of that happening? So actually, it makes a lot of sense. Again, it's not saying I just want to be clear. It's not saying it can't happen. It's not saying it can't happen. The Gemara is just saying with probability, never has happened and never will happen. The Gemara says, "V'lama nichtov." So why was it written? So the Gemara says, "Drosh v'kabel schar." Again, in order to learn it and receive reward. Some things you learn because you need to know what to do, and other things you learn because you get schar from it. Now, I just want to point out. The Gemara says, now, just sometimes the way we look at that phrase, drosh v'kabel schar, means what? Just learn it for the sake of learning it, and you get schar for the act of learning, even though there might not be anything practical that you could do with this, but there is schar, there is reward for the act. So I will say, this is a very important lesson. There is schar for the act of just engaging in Torah learning for the sake of Torah learning. But I think that's not what it means over here. Drosh v'kabel schar means, you're right, could very well be that Ben Sora Umora will never happen. Never happen, will never happen. But Drosh, analyze it. V'kabel schar, what's the schar? What's the schar? What's the reward? There are lessons to be learned from Ben Sora Umora, even if it will not actually ever happen. I will say, what are the lessons? What's the Drosh? What's the drosh v'kabel schar? So I will say. So again, I want to fast forward a little bit. We're going to see in the next Mishnah that the whole yisod of Ben Sora Umora is what? What's the whole yisod of Ben Sora Umora? The whole yisod is Hashem ha'asid. Hashem ha'asid. Ben Sora Umora is not actually put to death for what he's done now, but rather again, why is he put to death? For what he's going to become. See, I will say, do you want to know something amazing? Do you know what the essence, do you know what the ultimate lesson of Ben Sora Umora is? What's the ultimate lesson of Ben Sora Umora? What is the Ben Sora Umora? What's the lesson, Chavra? The lesson of Ben Sora Umora is that once a person makes certain decisions, they can't change. That's Ben Sora Umora. The kid made a decision at a young age to steal money, to buy wheat, to buy meat, to buy wine, right? That's when he made the decision. What Ben Sora Umora says, you made those bad decisions, you have put yourself on an irreversible course. So the Gemara comes along and says, that's not true. That's not true. Ben Sora Umora exists as a concept, but practically it's not true. Because there's no such thing as a yid who can't change. Then no matter how bad your decisions have been in life, you could always put it in reverse. You could always go ahead and take your life in a different... That's what it means when it says... Supposed to say, that's the words. That's the words. The Gemara says, I'm sorry... Ben Sora Umora, lo haya v'lo asid lios. There's no such thing. Because conceptually, there's no such thing as a person who can't change. So says the Gemara. So why is it here? Drosh v'kabel schar. So learn it and receive reward. What's the reward about? So what does it mean, drosh? So analyze. And so what's the analysis? The analysis of Ben Sora Umora is, but yet, there are so many people who think that they can't change. There are so many of us who think that we can't change. So when I learn Ben Sora Umora, I learn about a person who quote unquote can't change. He made certain terrible decisions and he can't back himself out of it, but that's not true. That's not true. Rabbi say, no matter how much of a bad spot I've landed myself in life, I can always get myself out of it. It doesn't mean there's not collateral damage. And it doesn't mean that there aren't irreversible realities. There are. Sometimes we make decisions and we can't undo that which is done. But change is absolutely always possible. That's what it means, Ben Sora Umar. There is no such thing as a person who cannot change. Lo haya v'lo yeya. So what should you do with it? Drosh v'kabel schar. Bless you. Because so many times in life, we think we can't change. So learn Ben Sora Umar and recognize that you absolutely can. The Gemara says, Kiman. The Gemara says, Kiman azla desan, ben sora mora lo hayvelo velo asil lios v'lamanich. Now, Josh Lakal Schar, so whose opinion is this? Kiman Rabbi Yehuda. It's like Rabbi Yehuda. Like Rabbi Yehuda. The Ibai Sema, Rabbi Shimon, he decided this is very interesting. Amar Rabbi Shimon, v'chim mipnei sha'achal zeta timar basra v'shasa chatzi lo gyaina italki avi motzino sal l'skila l'saklo, because this kid stole some money and purchased meat and wine. His parents are going to take him out to get stoned. El lo haya v'lo asil lios. Ben sora mora never happened and is never going to happen in the future. So why is it here? Drosh v'kabel schar. Rabbi said, this is it. This is probably the most important line in the entire sugya. It never happened, never will happen. Because the concept that a person can't change is antithetical to Yiddishkeit. So what do you do with Ben Sora? Because that's what Ben Sora Moreh is. A kid who can't change. Never happened. No such thing as a person who can't change. So what do you do with this whole section? Drosh, learn it. Analyze if Kabbalah Khan reap the benefit. What's the benefit? By learning about the context of the kid who can't change and recognizing that this never happened, never will happen, I received the greatest reward in the world. And the greatest reward is a recognition that I absolutely, unequivocally have the ability to change at any juncture, at any point in life. Incredible. Rabbi Yonasan. Rabbi Yonasan says, 1 second, what are you talking about? Rabbi says, it's incredible. Watch this. Anira Yisiv. Rabbi Yonasan says, I saw a Ben Sora Ramora. I saw him. V'yashavti al kivro. I sat on his grave. How can you tell me it never happened? I saw it. I went to the Levaya. I saw it. I sat on his grave. Now, why exactly he sat on his grave? The Gemara has a whole discussion about this. Not for now. The Gemara says, "Come on, Asla." So we'll say, so what do you do with this? So Rabbi Yonasan says, there was a Ben Sora Mora. So we'll say, I think the way it works is like this. Rabbi Yonasan is not arguing. There never was a Ben Sora Mora. There never will be a Ben Sora Mora. Rabbi Yonasan is lamenting the fact that many people go through life thinking that they are a Ben Sora Mora. Rabbi Yonasan says, you know what? I've been to many levayas, people who left this world, and they left as a Ben Sora Mora. They left this world thinking that they couldn't affect change. They left this world thinking that they couldn't make something better of themselves. You're right. There's no such thing as a Ben Sora Mora, yet you'd be surprised how many people leave this world thinking that they were a Ben Sora Mora. I will say, one of the most tragic things in life is we leave this world with so many things unaccomplished. We leave this world without actualizing our potential. We leave this world without becoming the kind of people that we're really capable of becoming. So I don't think Rabbi Yonasan is disagreeing. I think Rabbi Yonasan is just talking about human nature. So the reality is there's no such thing as Ben Sora Mora because change is always possible. But yet Rabbi Yonasan says, tragically, I've gone to the levayas of so many Ben Sora Moras, people who left this world and never made the changes they could because they thought that they couldn't. Because they believed too much of Ben Sora Mora. Incredible. The Gemara says ourselves, come on, Azla Hadasanyo. So we'll say, whose opinion is reflected in the following idea? Irani Dachas. So again, Irani Dachas is a city wiped out because of idolatry. Lo Haisiv Lo Asida Lios. Incredible. Never happened, never will happen. V'lama Nichtava. So why is it written in the Torah? So the Gemara says, Drosh V'kabel Schar. Ultimately, again, to learn it and to receive reward. Same idea. Rabbi say, now what does this mean? How could it be that there's never Irani Dachas? As Rabbi say, there's no such thing as a city of Jews where there's not one tzaddik. Not possible. It's not possible. You can't have a place where every single yid who's there is bad. Impossible. It's just not possible that someone's not kaddish, someone's not holy. So learn it and receive reward. Kiman Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Eliezer, the son of Rabbi Eliezer, Omer, Kol Ir Sheish Bafilu Mezuzah Achos, Eino Nasi Ir Nidachas. So Rabbi Eliezer says, if there's even one mezuzah in the city, it can't become an Ir Nidachas. Can't become Irani Dachas. So most of my time, what's the reason for that? Because what do you have to do with the Irani Dachas? So what do you have to do with it? You have to gather everything and burn it in the middle of the city. Now, if there's a mezuzah, you can't burn a mezuzah. Right? Why can't you burn a mezuzah? Because mezuzah has the name of Hashem. You can't burn the name of Hashem. So therefore you see if there's even one mezuzah, it can't become an Irani Dachas. Can't become an Irani Dachas. Therefore, it's impossible that Irani Dachas ever existed. Am Rabbi Yonasan says, "Ani re'isiya v'yashavti al tila." Again, Rabbi Yonasan says, you're wrong. You're wrong. There is Ir Nidachas. I was there. I visited. Right? I went on tour. Right? I took the Ir Nidachas walking tour. And again, I saw it. I saw the ruins of the city. I saw an Ir Nidachas. I will say, once again, it's the same Yisod. I don't think Rabbi Yonasan is disagreeing. Rabbi Yonasan is saying sometimes, again, just like individuals give up on themselves, communities give up on themselves. And communities also forget that they can become better, that they can become holier. Again, communities are made up of individuals. If you have a group of people who think of themselves as a ben sora more, that they can't change, they become a chevra, they become a chabur, they become a kihila, they become a community of ir nidachas. I think they can't change as well. Tragically. Kiman azla desanyo. Bais hamenuga. Haya. All right, boss, you know what? We're going to have to stop over here. Listen, just when my performance review comes up, I tried. I guess I could have started 5 minutes earlier. And I will say, we're going to pick up right here. We are right on track. We are right on track. We're going to be great. I'll say, you tell me, what can we have skipped? What can we have skipped? Nothing. I'll say, tremendous stuff. Shkayach, everyone. All right, Chavra on Zoom. Shkayach, everyone. The person is that